Hey everyone, I'm Garnet. Welcome to a week in my life as a professional game developer. For the last year, I've been working on a virtual reality project called Neon Squad Tactics, a turn-based XCOM set in a neon bar with my team at Tin Man Games. Neon Squad Tactics recently came out on the Oculus Quest, and since its release, I have been in charge of porting the game to Steam with the PC VR and the HTC Vive, which will be released on September 18th. The next goal for this game is to port it to PC, which means no headset and no hand tracking. I invite you to join me for a week of development and what my day-to-day looks like as a game developer during this porting process. Some parts of this video will be a bit technical, but I will try and keep it as vibey as possible. To begin today, I have installed the rewired package of the Unity Asset Store, which is a really neat solution to the input system and gives full support to controllers and keyboard bindings, which I've already made a bit of a start on. I'm in the editor now, and I'm actually using the gamepad here to control the character, which is working pretty smoothly at the moment. Since this project was designed for virtual reality devices, Unity's standalone input module, which the event system uses to handle all UI interactions, is extremely unstable with Rewired. And because of the depth of this project, it's not really an option for me to uninstall the existing packages that we have working, as a lot of the project relies on it. So my job today will be sort of creating an emulator for the VR controls and Rewired's input system. I've just gone through the first sort of area in the game that the player gets brought into, which is the elevator scene, and I have the controller navigation set up. And if you switch to PC controls midway through, it will recognize that immediately and switch the controls over as well. This process takes a while because I have to manually look for all of the UI elements and make sure there's a way for each element to link with each other cohesively, which for normal games you don't really need to think about because the option is given to you, but with a controller you do actually need to set how each element interacts. For example, in this opening scene, if I navigated to the settings menu, then the settings would pop up. And while in the settings menu, I navigated to the controls, then the controls would pop up. And while in the controls, the forward and backward options would all need to link together. So if I was highlighted on the top left here, and I hit down on the D-pad, for example, on a controller, then the expected behavior would be that I go to the middle left option. But that navigation logic needs to be hand set so that every interactable element has some way of being interacted with. There was also a problem I ran into with the code where I needed to set the navigation for the back button through code, as the navigation for it would change depending on the menu item that was selected. I've never really used the explicit navigation setup before, and doing it by code, you can reference the navigation of the selectable object, but you can't set it. So you need to reference the navigation, then using the reference, set the specific navigation mapping, then with the original selectable object, you have to reapply the modified navigation setting. And that took a bit longer than I'd like to admit to figure out. Now that I have that out of the way though, the next part will be going through the main sort of game scene and finding the UI elements there that need the navigation linking set up for the controller. I spent a bit of time yesterday going through the main game scene now and have changed over a good chunk of the UI elements that I can change over. However, there is a bit of a roadblock because we have a tech tree, and since things get unlocked incrementally, I don't actually know if there's a good way to link the navigation together, since some game objects or selectable objects won't always be enabled, so the flow of navigation could break pretty easily. I'm gonna have to spend a bit of time thinking about a solution for that, but otherwise for most of the other UI elements in the scene, if I just walk up to them and interact, they will respond correctly, which is nice, but there are still some work that needs to be done. There's also a bit of polish that will need to come, but I'm focusing on the functionality first. On that note, I'll be continuing today with the bar scene UI and seeing how I crack on with it. Been doing a bit of work on the UI stuff, and I found that the process that I was doing to get the navigation to work was taking a lot of time. Basically, I needed to set the name of the title and description to the values that were already set above here. And the obvious way to do that was just copying and pasting. But with the amount of UI elements I needed to change, it all started to blend together and it started becoming really easy to make mistakes. So I wrote up a script using some editor tools to retrieve the values and update the button events all through code, which has worked super well. Now all I have to do is add the script to the object, right click and press the set title and description, and the values and the button events automatically update, which is super neat. Anyway, got through that and I can just go up to all the interactable objects now and interact with them correctly. But I'm gonna have to make a start on the tech tree or the loadout terminal, and I have a feeling that the loadout terminal will be slightly easier, so I'm gonna go with that first. Wrapped up yesterday, partially having started the loadout terminal, and I might revisit it today, but I realized another big task that I'm going to have to tackle is the level selection area. Since this was a VR game, it took some inspiration from tabletop games to give that feel of playing in a familiar location. So the main level select and playing field all happens in this central area here. Now the actual gameplay is going to be completely different tasks that I tackle, and I'm not even going to be thinking about that just yet, but I think it would be good to get a start on actually being able to select a mission and load into the mission. At the moment the screen looks like this, and I have no way of selecting anything. So I'll be using a similar setup to what I've already been doing and start to plug together the controller navigation mapping. Most of yesterday was spent working on the level select, and I kind of have it at a point where I can get into the character select screen, or the wagering screen as we're calling it, but from there I know it's going to start getting painful as I'll need to create new UI elements for it, so I'm going to move on to something else. I did this kind of neat thing in code as well to override some of the element highlights, like for example when you're in the level select, how the level actually expands. I basically created a pseudo state machine that checks what type of element is being pressed, and if it has a highlight associated with it, then it tracks the state of the highlight and also does the animation as necessary. Just something small, but I thought it was pretty neat. I'm going to jump back into the loadout terminal today, and then maybe the second half of the day I can make a start on the tech tree. I'm about halfway through finishing the loadout terminal and it is coming together, which is nice. There's two difficult things about this process though, one of which being the items that are unlocked aren't consistent. So the selectable objects that appear will almost always be in different orders. Because of that, I had to procedurally assign the navigation mapping for the controller setup during runtime, which wasn't as difficult as it might sound, but definitely a lot of work to set up. This is the current state that it's in, where I can select any character, scroll through the abilities, and enable the abilities. But the next part is when selecting filters. The order of the abilities change again, so I will need to code a way to recalibrate the navigation again depending on filters as well. End of the week, we've made it, and honestly it has been a busy week. A few weeks ago, it was announced that Neon Squad Tactics is a finalist at the upcoming Australian Game Dev Awards in the Mixed Reality category. The presentation will happen on the evening of October 9th, which is super exciting to be a part of. This event is one of many events that happens annually at the Melbourne International Games Week. It's a jammed-packed week full of all things game dev, and one of these events is PAX, which I'll be attending with my team at Tin Man to show off Neon Squad Tactics. As this event is less than a month away, we are doing our absolute best to get a playable PC build for this event so that you can be the first to play this game outside of VR. So if you're attending PAX in Melbourne this year, you'll know where I'll be. If you do happen to be there and you find the Tin Man booth and we don't have a playable PC build there, I give you full permission to call me lazy and I might just give you a prize for showing up. Anyway, jumping back into it today, working on the tech tree. I've made a start on the tech tree and you can kind of interact with it, but like a lot of areas still, there's work that needs to be done. I want to thank you guys for joining me this week working on Neon Squad Tactics. As always, if you enjoyed these types of videos, hit subscribe, like the video, and leave me a comment. Honestly, I love reading through the feedback that I get and creating a community through my work. It's been a busy week, but we've made some pretty good progress with the playability of the game for PC, which I'm super excited for. Next week, I'll be making a start on the character selection and probably do a bit on the actual missions as well. So if that's something that you guys want to see, let me know and I can try and put a video together for it. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my week as an indie game developer.